Right now, the WNBA is really going crazy. The contents of Christine Brennan's recently released book have sent league officials into a complete frenzy. It has already shot to the top of Amazon's bestseller list.
Christine Brennan is releasing her book about Caitlin Clark, and she talks about the impact of Caitlin Clark, and I'm sure there will be so many wholesome stories and uplifting things about Caitlin, but she is also sharing a look behind the scenes at a lot of the drama and negative things that happened.
This isn't your average sports biography. This book reveals everything the league frantically attempted to conceal, bringing years of mismanagement to a close. The fallout is going to be amazing.
Here in Iowa, we were the first to realize Caitlin's pull on fans. When do you think the WNBA fully realized what it had?
Publicly, I'm not sure that they really have. They certainly know, they have to know, Keith, but in terms of the comments, in terms of the way the commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, who I've known and I like, the way she has trouble talking about Caitlin Clark, or if she's asked about Caitlin, then she will say, well, Caitlin and Angel. Well, she wasn't asked about Angel, she was asked about Caitlin. This incredible inability to deal with the facts and to state the obvious, it is astounding to me how Kathy Engelbert doesn't come out after the Marina Mabry hit and say, that's unacceptable, the refs got it wrong. Okay, should have been kicked out then, you weren't, but now I'm gonna kick you out, you're suspended for another game or two. That's just unacceptable behavior for someone who's so important to the league or to any player, right? They can't do that. They seem paralyzed.
When will the WNBA attempt to suppress this book or target Brennan directly? Give up making forecasts, since the current situation is more significant than any challenge the league has encountered since its inception. However, the true story begins with the significance of this book. Sports journalist Christine Brennan is not like the others. She is a seasoned journalist who has covered women's sports since before the birth of some of today's biggest names. It's hard to ignore when someone with her background makes a shocking revelation about the WNBA, her book, her game. Caitlin Clark and the revolution in women's sports delivered a strong statement as it immediately raised to the top of Amazon's bestseller list. The truth is what fans want, not another edited highlight reel.
They would be saying, wait, we've done all this and we toiled in relative obscurity with low TV ratings and low attendance and most people not caring, the vast majority of the country. And now along comes one person, obviously one person who's magical, who's chucking it from the parking lot and it's going in, and who is, those passes are the greatest passes and otherworldly talent. They're looking at it and saying, why is it happening now and why didn't it happen earlier?
This book isn't being read for its feel-good content. They are curious as to what actually transpired when Caitlin Clark shot to fame in the WNBA. Brennan also delivers. However, what specifically went wrong for the league? The WNBA's leadership exhibits an astounding degree of denial, as revealed by Brennan's research. Brennan called a high-ranking league official the day after Clark announced his intention to enter the draft to ask whether they were aware of the tidal wave that was approaching them. The official treated Clark like any other gifted rookie, likening his influence to Maya Moore's debut. Basketball experts believed that response to be a complete fabrication. Yes, Maya Moore was a legend, but the national fervor surrounding Clark far outweighed her attractiveness to non-fans.
Caitlin Clark has changed the game. She changed it in college and in the WNBA. We know she broke all those records in college, but what was it about Caitlin that has just garnered so much attention and changed things the way that she has?
Rhiannon, obviously she's a basketball player, clearly, as you can see, but she's also an entertainer. And that's what takes her to a different realm, very much like Tiger Woods, right? When you see those logo threes, she's, shooting from the parking lot and it's going in. That's where people who don't necessarily pay attention to or love basketball, they're intrigued by that. Or those passes, those no-look passes, incredible length of the court. And that's where people like grandmothers who wouldn't care about this, or grandfathers, they're now rearranging their evenings to watch Caitlin Clark games. She's really the high wire act, and I think that's the difference between her and all the other basketball players.
And so
The league's decision makers honestly believed that Clark's presence was just another normal occurrence. They were going to discover how mistaken they were. And they made their first major error by ignoring every warning indication. There was proof everywhere no women's basketball player had ever sold out an arena, broken viewership records, or trended on social media like Clark. However, the WNBA's marketing team did not portray her like the generational phenom she was, but rather like a typical draft pick. Security was taken aback when Clark appeared for her first preseason game. Hours before the doors opened, fans were waiting in line. The number of people there was comparable to NBA playoff games, and parking lots were crowded. Not all leagues were prepared. They lacked adequate parking, merchandise, and employees. They blew their greatest chance in decades by choosing to ignore the data, even though it was all there. However, the mayhem did not end at the corporate level. Things were going to get ugly inside the league.
Why is there so much negative attention to Caitlin Clark being white?
For the longest time, this was seen and still is as a majority black league, and it is 74% black. And so I think all of us understand that the issues that can come up in that situation. And
rather than extending a warm welcome, the WNBA seems almost ashamed of Clark's success. This league didn't unite behind its breakout player as the NBA did with Michael Jordan or the PGA with Tiger Woods. Clark, on the other hand, turned into a lightning rod, receiving more egregious fouls than any rookie in recent memory and receiving criticism from league officials as well as players. According to Brennan, even reporters felt under pressure to avoid raising difficult questions regarding the animosity Clark encountered. What caused her to be so divisive?
Unfortunately, and this is a lot of what Christine Brennan brings up in her book, there have been so many mishandlings within the WNBA, and those things are still spilling over into this season of the WNBA.
The book delves into this, revealing a league culture that viewed Clark's fame as a liability rather than an asset. And there were severe financial repercussions from that dread. Brennan's book cites Dr. Ryan Brewer's analysis, which is nearly unbelievable. The economic impact of Clark's presence was in the hundreds of millions. TV ratings skyrocketed, restaurants saw record business, hotels filled, and products flew off the shelves. Despite having all the information, the league was unable to capitalize. They lost out on sponsorships, were unable to sell Clark items, and did not plan her appearances for optimal visibility. Business 101 is what it is. Determine your star, develop your brand. However, the WNBA behaved as though they were allergic to achievement. However, the issues underlying went even further into the league's own culture.
You know, you kind of felt like she was being folded, stapled, and mutilated, right? I mean, she's just getting pummeled. She is my height. I'm 5'11" and a half. She's 6 feet. So we're, maybe just a tad taller than me. And she is not a toothpick by any means, but she is certainly not bulked up to the point you're talking about. Obviously there are big, big players in the WNBA, as there should be, as of course they're terrific. And so, and she's driving in the lane and there she's going to the, and obviously a lot of this happens naturally. It's called basketball, there are fouls. And then some of it went beyond. And
a league split against itself is shown by Brennan's interviews. Clark's widespread popularity was viewed as a betrayal by some officials and players who feared that too much success would destroy the league's reputation. Racial and age differences existed, and many current players were caught off guard by the enormous new audience that Clark was attracting. League leadership chose to ignore this cultural change and hope it would go away rather than preparing everyone for it. Brennan even quotes sociologists who argue that in order to assist players in adjusting to the new reality, the league ought to have hosted seminars. Clark was thrown into the deep end by himself instead.
And this is just so weird, and I don't know the answer, and I'm not, she'll speak about it when she wants to. This is not in the book because the book went through April, but she's been injured twice. And fascinating, the last time she missed a game was sophomore year of high school with a sprained ankle, 1 game in high school. So from that moment on, all the rest of high school, all of her AAU games, all of her college games, and 1 season of WNBA, never missed a game. And the point that her AAU coach makes, which I think is absolutely valid, is one of the reasons Caitlin Clark is because she was always playing.
The world watched as the WNBA made mistakes. Clark did more than simply raise awareness of the WNBA in the United States. Her attraction was widespread. Brennan demonstrates how excited foreign viewers were to witness America's newest basketball sensation, but rather of highlighting the league's professionalism, the focus shifted to the WNBA's turmoil. Headlines were dominated by public infighting, PR blunders, and clumsy marketing. The league disregarded insiders' warnings, allowed unfavorable stories to get out of hand, and failed to defend its own product. When the world looked on, they witnessed a league in disarray. The repercussions are now beginning to mount. The book by Brennan is not only a tell-all, it serves as a warning. Sponsors are reconsidering their agreements. Fans are asking for clarification. Additionally, there is a crisis in the league's legitimacy. These days, every sellout crowd and every viral highlight serves as a reminder of what the WNBA nearly abandoned. A new genre of sports discourse is being sparked by Brennan's reporting. One that isn't scared to criticize the status quo and is brutally honest about the league's shortcomings. Will the league continue to make the same mistakes that nearly lost it everything, or will it be able to bounce back? One thing is certain, but the answer is still unknown. Christine Brennan just made the world aware of the WNBA's most serious problems. This is not just a sporting dispute. It serves as a lesson in what occurs when leaders fail to adjust, fear success, and ignore reality. The league's greatest accomplishment might have been during the Caitlin Clark period. Rather, it has evolved into a warning story. Now, basketball isn't the only thing at stake. It concerns whether the WNBA can at last grow past its own fears, love its stars, and learn from its failures. What are your thoughts? Is it too late, or does the league still have a chance to get this right? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. This story is only getting started, so hit like and subscribe if you want more frank sports analysis that breaks through the clutter.